Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a butcher, a bit of a baker, and definitely a noodle maker. He's part of a dynamic duo that's popping up and taking our mouths into an exploration of everything that they love about noodles, homemade and from scratch. Please welcome the co-owner of Red Panda Noodle, Eliot Hillis. What's going on, man?
What's going on? I think technically now we're a throuple. There's three of us now.
Oh, okay, a throuple.
Jen,
I like it. Jen, what's Jen's name? Jen
Silva.
Jen Silva.
She's our everything that's not what Seth and I do.
Okay.
Catch all.
I love it.
She's like our goalie.
Okay.
Stop everybody from talking to us and shit. So,
well, I appreciate you taking the time to come and have lunch with me, just especially since of the fact that you're nonstop and going everywhere. First question I always ask: what's your go-to favorite sandwich lunch?
thought about this a lot, man. Got to go jam hot chicken.
Okay.
Jam hot level.
Yeah.
You smack that carton of milk out of their hand. You order a liquid death sparkling water. And that's lunch.
Okay. Do you go with the fries or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to go with fries.
Yeah. I love, you okay with crinkle cut?
It's my least favorite, but I mean, it's like, I want a crunchy outside and a fluffy potato inside. Mm-hmm. And so like for a lot of that stuff, you need either a thicker fry or I don't know, for some reason, like the crinkle cuts never do it the right way.
Do you like a steak cut? Like you like a
pretty much anything else, even the terrible old school, I don't know if you remember this, the old school Crystals fries that were like an abomination unto the Lord. Yeah, those, I still enjoyed those for what they were.
Okay. So just to tell a little bit about your culinary background that has led to you, Seth, and Jen to creating Red Panda Noodle.
Strangely enough, the story of Red Panda predates Orlando Meats.
That's something that I was curious about. Like you've had this in your head for a while.
Yeah, and I was actually pitched as Red Panda, and we were trying to go into the I was thinking of it as the old Scratch location, but it's been a half a dozen others. It's a Tin and Taco now, the corner where Rollins is. Mm-hmm. And we were actually in negotiations to take that spot when we were at Seth and I were at Smiling Bison at the time, and we were with a baker. We were looking to take this spot and do whatever, and it was going to be like a good cherry deal. And then, you know how business works; it just falls through. And then one thing leads to another. We open Orlando Meats, and then 5 years come in, and we had made we had been in loose conversation to do Red Panda again right before the pandemic, and then we had been again a different, stylistically different version of Red Panda was also planned for 2021, and we had made it all the way to the finding a building phase, and then people backed out and whatever. It was a different concept, but it was essentially a version of Red Panda.
Okay.
And then now, this is what, fourth try, something like that.
First, why the name Red Panda?
Okay, so it's a cool animal. When I fell in love with him in 2015, 2014, I was in the Paris Zoo, and I got to see them in real life, and it was just like, wow, these things are like they're like too cute for their own good, and they're just lazy and kind of just food incentivized.
But they're ferocious a little bit, right? They can be it's like they're like a more advanced version of a bunny in that, like, you know, the whole phrase like even a bunny that's cornered will attack. It's like that. But their first defense mechanism is like this playful, like stand up and make themselves look big, and they, you know, flash their claws or whatever. But they will tear the shit out of you if you mess with them. Okay.
So
you do it all. Okay. I know you've gone from like snout to tail butchering, mm-hmm. you know, the culinary director, you've done personal chef, mm-hmm. You've done pizza, you've done catering, you're doing noodles, you've done like the 15-course meal type stuff. Yeah. I'm always intrigued by the fact that you guys do so many of these different things. And do you do it just because you're kind of as you go and you're creating? Because obviously, I don't know, like I see you now, like you just kind of like there's always an idea, mm-hmm. and then you're always kind of looking at like, I want to put my take on this concept, mm-hmm. But then I also feel like it's also kind of all over the place sometimes. So like at least in my sense, like and that's why I'm kind of curious of how your brain works, right? And how you kind of go from project to project, and is it like one of those where you're like, hey, I'm going to do this for a little bit, and then kind of go from there and then it kind of leans in, or you just kind of either are, sometimes, things happen where, the way the market is and things like that kind of do it.
I mean, we look at things very holistically. I don't know if you ever watched like Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency or any of that stuff.
No.
He's whatever. I'm not going to take up your time with
Okay.
this, but check out Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Got it.
It basically comes down to the point of I always take meetings. So like if somebody comes to me with an idea or like an opportunity, I never say no out of hand. I'll always be like, yeah, let's hear you out, whatever. And then I take that to the people that I have to, my family, like business family, whatever you want to call it. And I talk it out and go, does this work? Does everybody want to do this? Does this sound fun? Yeah, fine. I mean, that's how we ended up with Recess. That's how we ended up with a few dozen other projects that we worked on. That's how we opened up catering and all this other stuff. The private chef thing was, I met a person at Orlando Meats and they're like, can you just make me some like grilled vegetables or whatever? I'm like, yeah, we'll saute you something. We made something and she was so impressed by it. She was like, hey, can you cook for my family? And I was like, yeah, fine, sure. And then she referred me to another family and then another family and another family. And we topped out. We can't provide any more. Yeah. But so we're cooking for, 2 to 3 families a week, 2 to 10 meals, depending on what's going on. And, we do their holiday food and stuff. And it's something that's, I don't want to call it passive income, but it's much easier than like the fight of service.
Yeah.
I can just sit around and kind of like make this and that and like package it up and blah, 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 and then deliver their meals and we're good to go. And so we try to push ourselves in every direction that it feels right to go and run it to its logical conclusion. And then at such point as it terminates, we just go, all right, well, we have more time on our hands. What do you want to do now?
And I love that though. Yeah. I think that's what I love about it. That's why I was kind of curious on how it kind of goes. Cause like I figured there was something that obviously kind of leads to it. And you're just like, I'm going to go here now and I'm going to do this. And then after I do this, I'm going to go there. And I think that sometimes there's, I can pretty much tell you that at least from seeing you and from, our interactions, you're definitely not afraid of failure. That's like not even a thing. You're like, I don't care. I'll just like, get
Let's
up.
See what happens.
Yeah. I'll wipe myself out. I dust myself off and I go to the next thing. And that's something that's, that's hard when you're starting a business sometimes.
Well, the thing that's been so encouraging is that any venture that we've been in, and even the restaurants that we managed before we opened Orlando Meats, for all the failings that we've seen along the way, no one has ever been like, your food is trash.
Correct.
It's always like, oh, we don't have enough money for servers, or we don't have this, or we don't have that, or your decor looks like garbage, or whatever. And it's like, fair enough. Now I learned that lesson, but at least we have the food part down. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, like, when the producers of television shows come and stuff and they're like, hey, do you want to do this, do that? It's always a yes. And we get our name out there and that exposes us to more opportunities. But I think that the core of being, villainously connected to the food, and that's the only thing that we protect. You know what I mean? Like our intellectual property, it means the world to us, and where we express ourselves means the world to us. And so everything else is negotiable, but this is what we care about. This is what it is. And people overwhelmingly respond positively to our food.
Yeah.
Everything else, again, people may not like my general public behavior or attitude or whatever, or they might not like the decor of a certain restaurant that we run. But I hope that our food is beyond reproach.
Yeah, no, that's something that obviously I've always enjoy everything you make. So you're definitely you guys are all about the nudes. So you guys are all, lo mein, udon, was it biambang? You have like, and so many other, like how many other, like, where did you get, like, is this just something that you guys are just like totally into? You guys were doing handmade noodles at Orlando Meats before, and obviously
at the Bison before that,
and at the Bison. And I know that you obviously this was a concept that you've been wanting to do for a while. But what is it about the noodle and making handmade noodles and being able to do this type of stuff that you're looking to, one as culinary, I guess, speak to us culinary wise.
Right.
What are you trying to? What is it that you love about the doing noodles?
No, it basically boils down to over time we've tried to mature. Everybody does in their career, in their life, whatever. And as we've pared down the things that maybe don't matter so much, this like advanced plating, because I'm not sure how long you've been eating with us, but like when we were at Smiling Bison towards the end of our tenure, we had taken a very advanced and fine dining approach to plating. And because it's just a thing we were interested in. And so we were doing it, and like we pushed ourselves with the degustations. We're doing 18 courses and everything's being plated by tweezers. And at the same time, you've got a bison burger flying by the side of your head. And it's a very, interesting thing. And so over time, that falls away. Do you really want to plate like that anymore? No, whatever. Like, what do we like, and what works and what excites us? And it came down to like a very select few number of things that we started working from. And a lot of what spoke to us from a noodle standpoint, why noodles, is not only the infinite variation, but just the pure science of it is so interesting. I mean, we produce our noodles under a vacuum so that they have a greater chew and a greater bite. We basically cause the water, while it's mixed in the dough, we cause the water to boil at room temperature because it's in a vacuum. And so that creates a glutamic structure that you can't achieve otherwise. And so we stumbled upon, we call it's plasticine dough is what we refer to it as. But like, that produces a noodle that can't be done any other, no matter what you do, right? So once we had that under our belt and we started exploring other things like the yopo chamian, the bian bian noodles, like those were just such a cool thing to learn. And like the dao jiang mian, which is like a hand cut noodle, those things, like you have to have a special tool, you have to have special skills, you have to learn this thing. And it's almost like, I don't want to say doomsday prepper, but like we're collecting skills that we can produce all of these different things. And so like, we have an entire catalog of skills in the Italian pasta set that we just don't express because it's not what we're working on right now. But like, that's where it comes from, is like, oh, you see this cool thing? Awesome. Let's learn it. Like learning how to work with, mung bean noodles, jelly noodles we ate them at my favorite restaurant at Chuan Lu. They had it in a salad. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I looked it up on YouTube. This is how you do it. Learned how to execute it. It was on the menu in like 2 days. We refined it, and then we put it in the book. Okay, this is something else we can do. Yeah. And that's basically how it goes. And it just seemed to funnel itself over time into this very, very specific, aggressive, noodle-driven behavior to the exclusion of everything else, essentially. And so by the point where we were actually ready for Red Panda to take its first steps, we had a very focused view of what we were going to do, and how we were going to roll it out, because we even knew, look, we're nerds. Nobody's going to really care about a lot of the finer points of what we want to do. So we need to please the crowd. We need to excite the palate of those people that aren't trying to eat jellyfish and aren't necessarily trying to do all the weird nonsense that we get up to. And so from its very inception, we're doing pork belly lo mein, we're doing garlic noodles, those things that are approachable in a way. Obviously we kind of fucked them up a little bit and made them our own, but sorry for cursing.
No, it's fine.
But the soul of the dish is there, that's recognizable, that if you went to the mall in the early 2000s and you had bourbon chicken, our version of bourbon chicken is just the adult version of that. It's the one that's done with intention and care. And so we do that for, the 80-20, the Gillette rule. 80% of your sales are going to be that. And it's certainly reflected. Like our garlic noodles and our pork belly lo mein are our two biggest sellers by a country mile. Yeah. And then everything else, it goes in order of approachability. Like you can literally, it's the Pareto distribution. So you have those two dishes, and then right behind it's the yopo chamian because of novelty, and then literally everything else, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then so we just keep playing with the everything else. We just change those slots out. If it's not selling or it falls behind for a couple of weeks, we switch it out. We have a list, 40, 50 pages long of ideas that some are complete dishes. Some are just like one component of a dish and we're going to build it around. Some are just like weird jokes that we've made and like, can we make this into a dish? Or like stupid quotes from Hamilton. Like, is this a dish? So we're doing this?
But I love that though. I love the fact that you're finding that balance. I also love the fact that you understand the fact that as like a chef, you understand that obviously not everyone's going to be as adventurous, and sometimes you need to play the classics. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's kind of interesting to me when it comes to that. I always like to ask.
Side note, we just invented our first, and we're still in the process of verifying this, but we invented a new dish never done as far as we can tell. We call it kalshu, which is it means like grilled books in Mandarin.
Okay.
It's a folded noodle that's been grilled on an ogaton style grill, and it's covered in mayonnaise and rosong, pork floss, and like I've looked up, tried to find equivalents, and it just doesn't exist. So like it was interesting, and this is just blowing our own horn or whatever, but if in fact we invented this new thing, I mean, it's weird to think like we created a new dish that's in Orlando, and like I can point to the day that it happened, and I can point to the reasons why this dish exists. And if people do their own I would love nothing more than to get ripped off by a bunch of people. Like, you know what I mean? So that's what we live for. Like to be able to when we do the more esoteric stuff, like when we design our own style of noodles, that's cool. But something that's is repeatable, and they could pay homages, and they could learn what we did and repeat them and change them and make better dishes, make cooler stuff. I mean, I'm all about it. I'll teach people, whatever. It's not hard to figure out what we did, but whatever. Like, that's what we live for. That was a really, really amazing moment, and that happened like a week ago.
Yeah, I actually saw. I was looking at that on your Instagram. I was like, "What the heck is this?" I'm like, "I've never had this before." I'm like,
"No one has."
Yeah, no, that's amazing. How did you and Seth meet? And then my other part is like, how is it that you guys like? What's you guys like yin and yang to each other, or are you guys pretty much very similar? Like, how does it? Because obviously, I know you mentioned Jen's your goalie now. So my question is like, when the two of you are together? I mean, obviously, it's like a force, but how does that work?
Well, first off, we met at Smiling Bison. Our anniversary is January 21st, 2016 is when we met. And we both got the job about a week apart. Seth started before me. And he was working saute. I had staged at the Bison before, but I went to go work in the Keys for a while. I came back, and the sous chef at the time was leaving. And there was another guy that was already set to become a sous chef, and I made it my goal to become the sous chef after him. I was like, all right. And so Seth and I, these kids, it makes me sad, but like the competitiveness in the kitchen is died down quite a bit. But Seth and I were at each other's throats when we first met, because we were competing for the same job. Yeah. And because everybody wanted to be in charge, everybody wanted to be the best. And so like we were working and working and working. And really at the time, the only thing that caused me to win over Seth, or not win, but to take the position over Seth, is that I stopped sleeping. So I would go into work at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would be there till 11 o'clock at night, and I would, work on my days off, and I just wanted it more, I guess. But once I took over, his value became readily apparent, because you always need someone that can complete your thoughts and help you to do that. And we filled that role for each other, because I'm more on the ethereal side of things, general concepts, these flavors, these profiles, this noodle, this thing. I can work on the inventive mechanics, or the inventive poetry of the work, or the art of the work. And Seth is the more mechanical side of it. So even in the production of that grilled noodle, my original concept was technically sound, but it was ugly and it was hard to grill. It was very, very kind of not delicate, but it was just a little floppy, whatever. Yeah. Seth looked at it, goes, yeah, cool, but if you just do this, all right. And I'm like, fuck it, try it, go. And then we have the grill outside, and we just put it on the grill. Yep, perfect, done. What do you want to do? Mayonnaise. All right, cool. Like that was it. And we have both of he and I have the Duke's Mayo tattoo on our legs.
Yep.
And, we're devotees of largely the same stuff. And the division of labor is literally left brain, right brain. You know what I mean? So I'm right-brained. I'm more creative and more open to like the fluid nature of the world, and I'm always accepting all these different things. And then whatever pre-concept I come to, Seth will take it and go, all right, that's cool. And like, this is how it could be better. This is how it's better for service if we, pick it up this way and hold it this way and do this. I'm like, all right, cool. And that's been the whole of our relationship for the past 6 or 7 years, whatever the hell it is. 6 years? 7 years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. I think that's absolutely amazing. I always like to ask chefs I'm going to ask you two versions of this question.
Bristle with the word.
One is, what's your at-home sandwich making advice or tip that you would recommend someone at home, someone who's not a chef that's making a sandwich at home?
Get good equipment. Seriously, residential equipment is terrible. Like
good equipment, like what?
Hand tools, pans, pots, everything. Always buy commercial stuff. It's not only cheaper, it's of better quality. It'll last longer. It'll stand up to the abuse, and you can do more things with it. So, like, for example, people use like a butter knife for making like a peanut butter and jelly. Perfect example. Now, whatever that butter knife costs is irrelevant because you're eating dinner, whether you're actually spreading butter. Yeah. Get yourself an Atico palette knife. Right, it's an icing knife. There's a little thing. It's got a little wooden handle.
I was just going to tell you use one of my Deli Fresh Threads sandwich spreaders, but
that one works too. I have that one.
I'll give you one. I'll give you another one of those.
No, I have one. It's in a band in my head. All the logos roped off now. I've had it for so long.
I know.
But in the absence of having Biggie's tool, just get stuff. So like I only use carbon pans at my house, and they're like $17, but the equivalent steel pan. All clad like it's like $200. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Go to Webstaurant or go to not Chef's Warehouse. What the hell is
Restaurant Depot?
Not restaurant. The other one, Restaurant Equipment Warehouse.
Yeah,
you can get so much good equipment. Buy a fish spatula that is meant for restaurants. Buy tongs that are meant for restaurants, and they will outlast anything you can get from Target. Anything you can get from what's that fancy smancy one that has
Williams Sonoma.
Williams Sonoma. Yeah.
Okay.
Just buy good equipment, and it's usually cheaper, no matter what medium you want to work in.
What about that's tools? What about like actually like is there any? Do you recommend anything on like things that people don't do or should do that you think would take their sandwich to the next level if they're making something once they get like all the tools and everything for it?
I think my two things, or maybe it's just one thing, really, push it to the limit.
Okay.
Right. So, I don't know. Can we advocate for drug use on this show? No, don't. Whatever state of mind you want to be in, prepare to open yourself to new possibilities. So, like going back to the peanut butter and jelly thing.
Yeah.
That's a very simple sandwich, and the sum is greater than the individual pieces, right? So, what if you add something? What if you take something away? I mean, like, I think it was like 2 months ago or whatever, there was a bunch of nut butters on sale at Publix, and I just bought the whole line of whatever they had. And it was like, so I'm just like slowly working through. I've got this Nature's Own crappy wheat bread or whatever, and Welch's grape jelly. And so like, that's a good blank slate to like try these other nut butters. How does this work? How does that work? Whatever. The same thing goes when you go to the grocery store. Grab an item, right? It helps if you go to a grocery store you're unfamiliar with, either an Asian market or a Spanish market. Those are amazing. But go to a market and pick out one thing, like you're a kid, like you get one toy. Pick out one thing that's foreign to you, that you never tried before, that you never looked at or used, and try putting it in a sandwich. Try to put it as an ingredient in one of your things. It's even better if there's no English on the container. So it's just total freedom, just like whatever. I mean, I discovered so many amazing things that we still use today as part of our general palette of colors. There's this stuff called pickle sauce. Superior pickle sauce.
Pickle sauce.
Right. It's a mistranslation. What it should be called is meat braising sauce, but it's not that. Like, it's just called pickle sauce. And they have different versions of it, but we generally stick with the standard gold superior pickle sauce. It smells like straight death, but it's one of the most amazing umami, and like, it revives dishes in the same way that like a nice high acid thing. It's slightly acidic. It's salty. I can't find much information about it, and I just really haven't tried like that much. But it's an amazing piece of our toolkit. And I mean, I love pickle sauce, man.
Okay,
it's amazing.
What about since we're in the world, you're in the world of noodles. Mm-hmm. What is it? And obviously, what do you recommend for someone making noodles at home? Obviously, you're probably going to tell them don't buy the box stuff, try to make it yourself. But is there anything else that you can recommend that people are totally just butchering when they make noodles or make some form of pasta at home?
Oh, that's a very complex question. So, first of all, if you make the decision to make noodles from scratch at home, you're always going to end up with something that you're going to be proud of. And you'll learn how to refine that over time. And my main advice for them would just be stick with it, learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
When it comes to like making pasta dishes at home, one of the things I notice a lot is people don't let their pans get hot enough. Like, so you boil your pasta, blah, blah, whatever. Try to make it not stick. The whole oil thing's dumb, whatever. And there's like a million different opinions on the subject. It's not worth getting into. It's like the whole hot dog a sandwich. Like, who cares? Whatever.
Yep.
But like, nobody makes my new pasta like my grandmother. Yeah, whatever, dude. Fine. Sure. But the general thing, like, let's say you're picking up like a cacio de pepe, right? Which is just Parmesan cheese, pepper, maybe a little wine to deglaze the pan, and noodles, right? So the important part is to get that pan ripping hot. Use a carbon pan. Never use nonstick unless you're talking about eggs. Use a carbon pan, get it ripping hot so you can actually sear those noodles. And then you're going to have an entirely different experience because texturally, I mean, nobody does that at home, and I don't know why. It's not that hard. You just got to get a hot pan. Take the batteries out of your smoke detector and open the windows because most hoods can't handle what's going on. It's
going to be smoky as heck.
I love it. If you have gas, all the better, but you can do it on a glass top or a traditional coil stove. Just let it, just don't look. Don't look for like 45 seconds, a minute. Let it get smoking, and then throw your noodles in with a little olive oil. It's going to scorch, just whatever, just let it do it. I know, it's scorching the olive oil, it's fine. You can use a neutral oil if you like, but whatever. So throw the olive oil in, it should be like 400 or 500 degrees. Smoking, noodles go in, toss, pepper to toast, toss, then cheese on top, done. And like, it's going to be so much different than if you went in with a Teflon pan and you like basically medium high or high heat and just kind of like, oh no, I hope I don't mess it up. And that's going back to the quote unquote fearlessness of my behavior. Like, I don't care if I fail. More often than not, fortune favors the bold. So like, if you're just going to go for something, just do it all the way and see what happens. And like, either you fly or you get dashed upon the rocks, but at least you can hold your head up. And I don't mean to quote Benito Mussolini here, but like, one day as a lion, you know what I mean, is better than a lifetime as a sheep.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't quote fascist dictators, but he's dead. It's fine.
Got it. One of the things that I found to be really interesting that I read that you've been, one of the things, and obviously you're currently right now in pop-up mode. I know that the concept is to open a brick and mortar location, and obviously I know that'll come when. But one of the things that caught my attention was that you. And obviously I know that was one of the demises of kind of leading to Orlando Meats and everything like that is obviously staffing. But one thing that I've never really seen too often is that your concept is the idea of having your staff and putting them on salary. Yeah.
Always.
Which I think is amazing because you're right. Like I don't, at least in my brain, I don't ever hear that, or at least to kind of push that. So, can you talk a little bit about some of that? Like what was one of the reasons why? Because I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that's not all positions.
It's most all positions.
Okay.
There's some wiggle room when it comes to front of the house stuff, but just generally like split the tips or whatever, or they just get a salary that comes from the tips or however that works. I'm not like a money person.
Correct.
But they get front of the house generally is left alone they get tips and then whatever wages. But for back of the house, and again, this is like, I know it's not a popular stance to take anymore, but being so immersed in an environment, whatever that environment is, that you could be blindfolded and they could take you anywhere in that thing and touch your fingertips to a surface and you would tell them exactly where you are. And like being so immersed in an environment that you're connected to it in that way helps you to appreciate and to perform in that environment. Like just like any baseball team, their home team advantage or whatever, I don't know sports, but the home team advantage thing, or like, I don't know if you work out, but you're probably more comfortable. Like I go to climbing gyms a lot, right? So my home climbing gym is way more comfortable, and I know the little nuances of the walls more than I know like when we go to a new gym. And it's exciting to be in a new gym and stuff, but there's nothing like the familiarity of having it. And so the more you're in a space, the more the space is a part of you and you're the part of the space. And so having somebody on salary means that they're there as much as they have to be. And sometimes that's 40 hours and sometimes it's 90 hours. And you get your vacation time and blah, blah, sick leave and whatever. But the general idea being you're committed to us and to the concept and to this functioning to the point where you're giving over this amount, right? And we're willing to give you X amount for that thing. The greater thing is, I hope that people are learning from that far beyond what the day-to-day is. You know, I don't know how I picked it up, but like how business works. Like, how do you work the articles of incorporation, and how does a tax form work? I learned that by accident. Yeah. And I learned it while I was at work. I didn't go to business school or whatever. Those things came to me when they needed to come to me. And who knows, if you just open your mouth, what can go inside. I don't mean to, you know what I mean?
That's what she said.
Yeah. So if you're just in a location for a long time, and then before I was on, not to take too far of a riff, but like before I was on salary at a few other restaurants, it was just a matter of me coming, as soon as the doors were unlocked, I was in that building. And I would work for free until I was supposed to clock in, and then I would clock in. And then if they were cutting somebody or whatever, I would volunteer to get cut, which means I get less money because I'm hourly. And this is one that I'm speaking of specifically that shall remain nameless, but there was no smoking allowed. And so the only time you could smoke at the restaurant was when you were off the clock. So I would volunteer to leave, quote unquote leave, and I would get off the clock, and then I would go smoke cigarettes, and then come back, and I would finish all the night prep and everything. It wasn't about the money. It was about the ability to be in a space and learn. And everybody was above me at that point. Like, everybody knew more than I did or whatever. And so I just absorbed everything that they had, everything. And I'm so thankful for that. Like, I'm so thankful that they let me do that and like let me just sit there and absorb everything from them. Like, I volunteered to come in on the weekends and clean the walk-in and wait for the delivery guys to come. And when the hood guys were cleaning, I'd volunteer for that, and they give me a key, and I felt so special. And then but at the same time, even at like 27 years old, I was so broke that like buying a large pizza from, what was it, Brooklyn Pizza or whatever it used to be over there? Broadway, there you go, was like a big deal. So like I would cash my check and I would go buy a pizza because I was so broke. But in a lot of ways, like I had just as fulfilling a life, save for all the trappings. Yeah, I was happy. I had like a shitty mattress in an apartment that I split with my brother, and like the walls were bare, but I had the pizza and I could smoke and stuff. And then I would spend all my time at work, and I spent all my spare money on books and knives.
What's something that you would think that people don't understand outside people that are not in the restaurant business or own a restaurant? Because I mean, what you're saying is you're basically living, breathing the business.
Yeah, it's my
all the time. That's all you do.
I do feel bad for the people that I date, because it's like you have to have that conversation. Like I have to treat my restaurant like a child from another marriage. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I love you, but at the end of the day, this child comes before literally everything else in my life. If it's sick, if it's happy, if it's his birthday, anything that comes up with this, child, the analogous situation with this child takes precedent over everything in my life. Like I was at a pop-up, not when I was working, I was just eating at a pop-up, and I had to take off and go deal with a restaurant that we're consulting for because something was not quite right and the owners didn't feel right about it. So I drove like 45 minutes on the middle of on my quote unquote day off, no real days off, but and go to take care of it. And I get there and there's like not really that big of a deal. So I handle it and whatever. And then I go, okay, bye. And then I'd leave. And it's another 45-minute drive back for like a 20-minute ordeal. And so like that is when you're, and it's the same with a lot of small businesses, is like that takes precedent over everything, because that's what feeds your family. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a family, but I have Seth and Jen, and like their paychecks and my paycheck rely on me making sure that everything is correct. And so at the end of the day, it's all three of us together fighting to make sure that we keep this baby alive. And with the bear, that show, the bear coming out, I think it gives people a false sense of like how much romance versus how much real numbers are involved. Like we're so romantic when it comes to it, but we are hard as coffin nails when it comes to everything. So like, have you seen The Bear?
Uh-huh.
I love the example. I want to do a whole podcast of just me tearing this nonsense apart, but the scene where Uncle Nicky or whatever it is comes and goes, hey, I'll give you, your brother owed me $300,000. I'll wipe the debt clean. Just give me the restaurant. That show is over right there. The show is over. That's it. He goes, yeah, okay, that's fair. That whole restaurant's not worth $300,000. Walk. Just walk. Why would you do that to yourself? Because, and this goes back to it. A lot of the chefs that I look up to, almost they come to periods where they almost put themselves in the grave because they stood by it. We don't hear about the ones that failed. There's way more of those guys.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation and you can't handle it and you're going down in flames, the bear is a total fictitious nonsense. Nothing about it is accurate. But if you were in that situation, especially the status that he's in, you just walk. I mean, if my brother had a restaurant and I could wash my hands of it and be done with it, it's over. Love you, bro, but you're gone. Yeah. So, vaya con Dios, Uncle Nicky, here's the keys, we're done. And so that's like really how it is. Like you have to know, and going back to Orlando Meats.
Yeah.
We love Orlando Meats, and Orlando Meats gave us so much. I mean, I was on television multiple times because of that. I was featured in the newspaper and magazines and blah, blah, blah. And my name is indelibly attached to Orlando Meats, and it was bittersweet to sign over the paperwork and say, I'm no longer an owner of Orlando Meats. They shuttered very shortly thereafter, so I didn't have to deal with any blowback or whatever. But to say I'm relinquishing all rights to this thing that I've been working on forever was horrible. And I talked to Josh, the old owner of the Bison, and I asked how he did it. And I consulted with a lot of people because it was very tough emotionally. But at the end of the day, in order to do Red Panda, in order to do what I thought was right for myself and my family and the larger culinary scene and what I hope to see in the world, I had to do this. And so I gave up a secured salary. I gave up a building. I gave up all of this stuff for just believing in myself. And so yeah, I gave up security for freedom, but the freedom is also to starve.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens to you constantly. That's what people should know.
What do you think has been your recipe for success?
Self-hatred. I mean that not literally, but like I'm more than willing to sacrifice myself for the good of my art or my work, I guess, if you wanted to go from that. Charles Bukowski said, find what you love and let it kill you. And I wrote that piece for Orlando Weekly, and I think I put something in there like that. Is like I gave myself over to this, and there's no end to that. There's like, it's like marriage is used to be like what marriage is like. It's like it's forever. And so there's no quit, there's no giving up. And then if you're willing to bash your head long enough on a rock, eventually something will come out. And the success that we've seen has been from just not even tirelessly, just walking like zombies 16, 17 hours a day, pushing forward. And in our delirium, some beautiful things come out. I mean, half the dishes that we've come up with, and I don't know if you remember any of them, but like the Deadlights and the Goblin and the Danza, the few things that made it on television too, that the deep fried lasagna sandwich thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, that comes from us not sleeping, being strung out, and having weird conversations with each other while we're prepping. It's like, what if we did this? What's the most ridiculous thing you can put on the sandwich? And in the case with the lasagna thing is, I think it was Seth said, what would a sandwich be if it was the Luigi brothers or something like that, or the Sandwich Brothers? And we're like, okay, well, what's an Italian thing that we could do? Like whatever. And it took like maybe a week of us hammering out the details, and then lasagna sandwich, and it's on national television the next year. It's really weird. So yeah, just give everything. Vicious. Oh, the fight between Bane and pop culture references. The fight between Bane and Batman underneath the armory at Wayne Enterprises. What Bane says is that you fight like a younger man, like nothing held back. Like that's what you should aspire to be. Like leave everything in the trenches, leave everything on the dance floor, and just constantly beat yourself up until.
So do everything at your all.
Yeah, everything is hard as physically possible.
Okay. Is that also, would you give that same advice as like if someone were starting out, that's like you're all just go balls deep into it?
I was a musician for most of my life. I started playing drums when I was 4. I finally stopped playing officially, I think at like 26 or 27. And in that time, of all the musicians I've known, the best ones gave up everything to work on their craft. They would sacrifice everything in their life, even their life in general, like literally to the detriment of everything. They would be able to. They were the 13 and 14-year-old kids that could sweep pick and that could, you know what I mean? They were the first ones to come out and be able to blast beat. And I looked at them and I idolized my peers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I got to get this Iron Cobra pedal. I got to do this. And just all my money went to playing music. All my time went to figuring out how to play music. Everything. I listened to music constantly. I was trying to, and then when time came around that I could be in marching band became my whole life and everything. Obviously, I did a lot of drugs too. But like everything else was just music. And so, you're practicing 4 hours a day. Then you're practicing with your band. And you're practicing in marching band. And you're practicing. And like literally your entire life is spent, and I became proficient at multiple instruments throughout the road, but like it was always just never stop, just never have a situation where you're giving less than everything.
So you say you played until you're 26.
I think so, yeah.
26, what about food wise? When did you go into, when was the food? When did you, because it almost seems like you went like, I'm assuming that you took that energy from that and then went into the culinary world. It's almost like you, is that so correct?
Well, not quite. So I stopped seriously playing music probably around 21, and I was signed to a small label, and we put out a few CDs with a few bands, and it just didn't pay any money. And so when you're an adult, like, I mean, you get beer money or whatever, but like there's not much you can do. And so we kind of disbanded. We did a few things here and there, and then I started working in just like Publix was like my first technically food job. I worked in the deli.
Okay.
And then it was on and on from there, in and out of restaurant stuff and tacit restaurant stuff, and until I finally landed at a place as a dishwasher because there was no other jobs available. And I worked my way up there from dishwasher to sous chef, and that was like really where it became like I quit. I don't know. Is that cool to talk about drug use? I quit being a heroin addict in order to focus on cooking, and I don't know the right way to say that. Is that okay?
Yeah. Wait, was that? So hold on. Let me rewind here. Yeah. Is this one of those where you're like, I really want to get into cooking. I'm going to stop doing drugs. Is that, or like it was?
I had been shooting up for about 5 years, and it was a confluence of a few different things, but basically it boiled down to no one is going to pay me to do drugs, but they're paying me to cook. Okay. And so I don't have time to wait on dealers anymore or go to the dope spot or do any of this other stuff. And if I want to progress in my career, I have to be able to do shit. And I can't do that if I'm nodding off anytime I'm not at work.
Okay. Which
I was able to keep my work life relatively drug-free. But so I made the decision, and I didn't even quit. I was at holiday with my brother, and we were in my parents' garage because we used to like hang out. And I was like, I think I'm gonna put it down for a while, like not forever, but like I'm gonna focus on work and I'm gonna take care of this and see where it goes. And like that was, I don't know, 12 years ago or 10 years ago.
So but you think after that it was like even more razor focus?
Yeah, because I took that addictive personality. I mean, you see I'm covered in stupid tattoos. Like I take that addiction and just shove it wherever, and that's it. I mean, the same I don't call it passion, the same drive that it takes to deal with your drug addictions. You just export that same energy and motivation and time and put that into exploring the nuances of udon noodles.
Insane. Insane.
I mean, it's fairly textbook. Every great chef is either mentally ill or a drug addict or both.
That is or alcoholic. Yes,
that's a drug buddy.
Yeah. It's usually one of those. I totally understand that.
Yeah, we're all messed up.
Yeah, I get it. And you're also in your own world most of the time when you're cooking, and kind of how it is. What I'll two things left, and then my first one is, obviously you're on this journey where I feel like you know, especially both of you both being from Central Florida, you know, what's the mark that you want to leave Central Florida when it's all said and done? I mean, I know obviously we're considered, the Central Florida, Orlando is considered obviously the touristy area, but that we've gotten, I think you can agree, in the last 5 years or so, we've had this kind of culture has been like, we've kind of revitalized or kind of created some kind of renaissance.
People are trying,
food wise. We're at least trying to become it's not just the chains.
I didn't even know that it's a renaissance necessarily, but a natural first crack at our birth. And we're being hatched out of the womb of Disney, because we can't discount what Disney's done for us.
Correct.
Central Florida. But Seth and I were born in Winter Park Hospital. A few years apart, and I traveled the country. I cooked in Arizona, and I cooked in the Keys, and I've been a few different places, and nothing feels like this place. It's very interesting, and it's very fun, and it's one of those weird situations where the hole in the wall places can offer you a much more intellectually and spiritually nourishing meal than a lot of the fine dining spots. Like, I love I have a Luma tattoo on my back. And I loved their tasting menu, and I love what Brandon does, and Prado's cool, and Ravenous Pig, obviously. I haven't made it out to Ava yet. I just went to Doshi. So I dropped money on all the fine dining and all the nice places. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. But, Luke, sorry. Shout out to Jason. Definitely deserves a shout out there. But some of the most amazing meals I've had in my life are when, you know, at Chuan Lu at 2:00 in the morning, back when they used to be open that late, and like we're all messed up and we just left service, and there's a whole gang of people, and you're sharing a meal with the people that you're in the trenches with and stuff. And I think that all of our really amazing food that we're going to see in the next 5 years is born from those environments, is born from curious cooks that are going to these hole-in-the-wall spaces. They're putting their mark on the work. They're creating their own voice with the knowledge of what they've enjoyed, here and there. I mean, Chuan Lu, Taste of Chengdu, La Hacienda, Las Cazuelas. What's another really hole-in-the-wall crazy? Las Cazuelas, I mean, it has like an active leak in the roof half the time. They don't speak any English. It's amazing. I love that place. And Tacos El Rey. I mean, there's a million places that have really, really amazing food, and you would never hear. Not only they're not on the tourist radar, but they're not even on the local radar generally. And so we get to enjoy that, and then maybe selfishly we take that information and that joy, and we try to shift it and put it towards the thing. So like in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a huge wave of cooks that appreciate the traditional so much, but they said, well, we're in Orlando, so this is how Orlando cooks, and this is how we're going to. And I would love, as far as a mark left on our town, I would love to be able to develop what people think of as, I hesitate to say this, but an Orlando style noodle shop.
Okay.
One that is not culturally driven, but spiritually driven in the pursuit of the noodle. If that doesn't sound too egotistically
all about
stupid.
The noodle.
But like if you look at little shops and stuff around the world, you know, you'll have your specialty shops. Like one does yapachamian, one does, mung bean noodle, or one does this or that. It doesn't really matter. Or udon shops, and very prevalent. But our vision is, what if you had a shop that has 3 really, really solid noodle dishes, and then the rest is this cacophonous exploration of what is. So if you show up on a Tuesday or Thursday, we might be doing, Super Smash Brothers video game tournament, and you buy a bottle of sake and you get a bowl of noodles, and you can hang out with your friends and play Smash Brothers. Or you can, we have, and you can stop in for a quick bowl of noodles and you can leave. And we're a neighborhood fixture. We're a part of people's lives. And that was, I think that being at a lower price point definitely helps our approachability. Because how many people can afford to go to some of these tasting menus all the time? But the
quality's there.
Yeah, and I think that if we can translate what we see, the beauty that we see in the world, if we can reflect that and translate that in a way that speaks to our experience, we can leave a mark that says, and again, I'm hopeful that we can create a template to help other restaurants say we have a vision for. I mean, it doesn't have to be Noodles, but like, say we have a vision for, I mean, it's not even us necessarily, but like in the same vein as like Jam Hot Chicken, right? The same thing. Andrew was like, we're doing this. This is the thing we're doing. It's the only thing we're doing. And I mean, to amazing success. And like, he deserves every bit of it. He focused on what he was supposed to focus on, and he did it. And I think that going in a larger way, I don't know, have you traveled the world at all?
Yeah, I've traveled.
Have you ever been to France, like to a crepe shop or any of that stuff, or like in Spain with like, okay, so like they'll do like one or two things, whatever. And I think we need more of that. That's not just a taco spot or not a taqueria, or not just, a lechonera, like where they just, here's a bunch of chopped up pork, great, whatever. It's delicious, don't get me wrong, but like a more focused environment, a more driven environment. Like what if down the road we had a whole just fermentation restaurant?
You love that idea.
I would love it, but it's not financially viable now.
Correct.
I mean, maybe for another 10 or 15 years, it'll take before people catch on, or if they do at all, catch on to that level where that would be a viable. But I mean, imagine a restaurant that their entire catalog, their entire restaurant, and their raison d'etre is, we're going to ferment the world and bring it to you. I mean, that's exciting to me. And so if we could go, hey, let's stop with the TGIF has fucking everything.
Yeah.
They have quesadillas and they have ramen noodles and whatever on their whole menu. What if we did the opposite and we were so focused that we just did this one thing perfectly? And I think that going to that direction, maybe we can help people move on to that.
Yeah, I like that.
Is that
I love it, dude. I love that.
Good.
Where can people find and eat Red Panda now as they pop up everywhere?
We're popping up in pretty much everywhere. If you follow us on Red Panda Noodle and Red Panda Noodle Bar, those are two different accounts. One is like a personal account, so we can put music and stuff on it and do whatever we want. And the other is like a more business-oriented account that has more followers and engagement, blah, blah, whatever. But yeah, we list wherever we're going to be a few days in advance, and then day of. We're at Red Light a lot. We're at the Monday Night Market a lot. Where else do we go a lot? Ivanhoe Park Brewing. We do the shout out to Jordan from Orlando Parking Lot Party.
Yep.
We stick with him for the weekend kind of stuff a lot.
So that's good, man. Yeah, I absolutely love. I love talking with you. I love eating your food. I've had it all different ways. It's funny because I'm not gonna lie, my wife was like, "Was he gonna bring noodles when he comes?" I was like, "No, but we'll have noodles."
Yeah.
We did get to have Red Panda, and we absolutely loved it. So I'm looking forward to hitting up some more of your spots. Thank you so much for being on. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Eliot Hillis of Red Panda Noodle for being on and having lunch with me. Definitely make sure to check them out online. If you go, I expect some pictures and definitely reviews of the good food. Let me know if you eat if you're going on the I guess the traditional side, or if you're going more adventurous, what you have when you do go. If you enjoyed the show, definitely make sure to subscribe. If you want to support my show or support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads. Tell your friends. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.